The, I guess, 1 class were a series of 4 locomotives ordered by the private Sydney Railway Company. However, when they were delivered, it had been liquidated into the New South Wales Government Railways. These locos were based on the Wolverton Express Goods 060 introduced on the London and North Western Railway in 1854. The engines would arrive via ship in 1855, just in time for the opening of the first New South Wales Railway between Sydney Central and Parramatta. Both sites of these stations are completely different now. These locos were stored at Everleigh on the site of what would become South Everleigh Railway Workshops, and what is now, I think, a Woolworths. Locomotive number 3 would operate the first service between Central and Parramatta on the 26th of September 1855, with locomotive number 2 doing the first return journey. Locomotive 1 was undergoing maintenance at the time. As the network expanded, these locos would be used for hauling goods and passengers between Sydney, Campbelltown, Richmond and Penrith, later being transferred to Picton and Penrith for only goods services. Locomotive number 1 would suffer 2 accidents, the first being on the 10th of July 1858 when it derailed along an embankment at Homebush, and on the 6th of January 1868 where it collided with a passenger train at Newtown Station. The 1 class would have 4 more sister locos built from 1870 to 1871 at Mort's Dock in Sydney. These locos were modified with different running boards, smoke boxes painted fully black, different funnels and relocated sanding gear. These were made as a sort of replacement for the 1 class, I guess, because 4 more of these locos would be made at South Everleigh to fully replace the original 1 class. These would be made from 1876 to 1877 using reused tenders from the original 1 class. In 1877, the 1 class would be taken out of service, with 2 to 4 being scrapped and 1, as in like number 1, being preserved. The 8 other locos would now be called the M36 class. Number 1 would be bought by the Museum of Applied Arts and Sciences, MAAS, and after a repaint and rebuild, it was placed in the museum in 1884. Several times it was brought out of museum in 1905, 1917, 1938, and finally the centenary of New South Wales Railways in 1955. Afterwards, it was just stuffed into a shed in Everleigh. No joke. Back to the M36 for a sec. After 1877, these locos would be used for suburban services with the brand new American suburban stock until 1891, when the first were withdrawn. The last would be withdrawn in 1904, with Loco 78 being the only one preserved. It's now at Felmere. It's worth mentioning that the M36 class would be placed under the X10 series, but I still call them by what they were beforehand, since the X10 just means miscellaneous locos, and they vary wildly from, you know, regular steam engines to cranes, so yeah. Back to number 1, in 1988 for the bicentenary of Australia, the Powerhouse Museum would be properly built with a permanent location in Darling Harbour, where it is today. Before I end the video, I'd like to mention a conspiracy theory that says the loco was actually locomotive number 2 dressed up to look like a loco number 1 due to some of the parts being sourced from loco 2. The parts from loco 2 were given to 1 via regular repairs through the loco's operational life. This theory has barely any evidence, and even then it's just trivial. Locomotive number 3 would operate the first service between Central and Parramatta on the 26th of The 1 class would have more different... The 1 class would have 4 more... I'm just gonna do another one of those iconic script editing moments. These were made in 1893, it was moved to the museum's Harris Street. In 18... Oh, gosh. Car driving by. In until I've got pistachio in my mouth. Yum. Back to the M36 for a sec. After 18... No. There's still pistachio in my mouth. just me editing the bloopers segment, just put like a shot of me eating pistachios. Well, I'm sorry editing me in the future, but, well, we've crushed all our pistachios to use for ice cream, so, yeah. Sorry about that.